I've been on the bench for more than 40 years. I've seen every kind of excuse. I've heard every kind of lie. I've watched people cry real tears, and I've watched people cry the kind of tears that only come when they finally realize they might lose something they care about, like their license, their freedom, or their reputation. But the thing I've learned is this. Court is not a stage for pride. It is a place where the truth has to stand up straight, even if the person speaking it is scared, broke, or shaking. This happened on a Tuesday morning in Providence, Rhode Island. Case number 24 TR 11873. The clerk called it out at 9:14 a.m. The room was full in that usual way. People holding folded tickets, lawyers in dark suits, a few tired police officers waiting their turn to testify. I had my reading glasses on, my pen in my hand, and a stack of files that felt like they weighed as much as a brick. Then the doors opened, and in walked a young man who looked like he thought the courthouse was a private club. His name was Dylan Ashford, 22 years old. He had the kind of haircut that looks like it gets styled twice a day. He wore a black Balenciaga hoodie, clean white Dior sneakers, and a gold Rolex that caught the light every time he waved his hand. His belt buckle was shiny. His cologne hit the air before he even reached the defense table, and his phone, an iPhone Pro Max with a custom gold case, never left his palm. Behind him was his attorney, Mr. Lindsay, expensive suit, smooth face, calm eyes, the kind of lawyer who talks like he's already halfway to winning, and trailing just a step behind them was a man I recognized right away, even before he spoke. Tall, silver hair, perfect posture, that quiet confidence people get when they've had power a long time. That was Victor Ashford, Dylan's father, real estate developer, local headlines, charity dinners, big donations, buildings with his name on plaques, the kind of man who could buy a room's attention without raising his voice. Dylan didn't sit like most defendants. Most people sit down like the chair might bite them. Dylan leaned back like he was waiting for a waiter to take his order. Mr.
All right, guys, buckle up, because this case opens with a judge who has seen it all and is no longer impressed by tears, excuses, or entitlement. In a packed Providence courtroom, a routine morning suddenly sharpens into something heavier. The judge sets the tone clearly. Court is not a stage, and truth doesn't bend for pride. When Dylan Ashford walks and dressed like privilege incarnate, the contrast between justice and arrogance is immediately set.
Ashford, I said, you're here on a citation for reckless driving and failure to obey a traffic control device. Speed noted at 88 and a 45. Date of incident is October 17th. Time is 10:47 p.m. Location is Allens Avenue near the split by the port. Is that correct? Dylan smirked. He didn't look at me right away. He looked around the courtroom like he was taking in the crowd, like he liked being seen. Yeah, that's it, he said, casual, almost bored. The officer stepped forward, Officer Rachel Mendez, badge number 417. She was calm, professional. She had that steady voice you only get after you've seen people at their worst and learned not to flinch. She said, Your Honor, I observed a green Lamborghini Huracan making an aggressive lane change without signaling. The vehicle ran a red light at the intersection near Terminal Road. I initiated a traffic stop at approximately 10:49 p.m. The vehicle accelerated instead of yielding. Estimated speed reached 88 miles per hour in a posted 45 zone. I watched Dylan as she spoke. He smiled, not a nervous smile.
As the charges are read, the courtroom watches Dylan Ashford lean back like this is an inconvenience, not a reckoning. The reckless driving details come out calmly, but his smirk does the talking. Officer Rachel Mendez steps forward and lays out the stop with professional precision. Instead of concern, Dylan reacts with pride, treating speed like a trophy. The room senses early on that this isn't about a mistake, but about attitude.
A proud one, like the speed was an accomplishment.
When Officer Mendez explains that Dylan filmed the stop and dropped the line, "Do you know who my dad is?" the air changes. That phrase lands hard because everyone recognizes it. Dylan doesn't deny it outright. He shrugs it off. What should have been remorse becomes dismissal, signaling that he believes consequences are optional and that money will smooth everything over.
Officer Mendez continued. The driver eventually stopped near the entrance to the shipping yard. I approached. The driver identified himself as Dylan Ashford. He was recording me on his phone. He laughed and said, "Do you know who my dad is?" A quiet shift ran through the room. People always lean forward when they hear that line. It's like everybody recognizes it, even if they've never said it. "And then what?" I asked. Officer Mendez looked at her notes. He said, "This is a waste of your time. I'll pay whatever. I'm late." I turned to Dylan. "Did you say that?" He shrugged. "Something like that. I was late." Then the clerk handed me another file.
The judge notices a second name on the file, and the case deepens. Marcus Hale steps forward, moving carefully, clearly worn down by life rather than drama. He introduces himself as a nurse's aide and an Army veteran. There's no performance in his voice, only honesty. The courtroom shifts again as this stops being about speeding and starts being about harm.
A second complainant had been listed. That caught my attention. Reckless driving tickets don't always have a victim, but this one did. I looked down at the name, Marcus Hale, age 38. "Mr. Hale is present?" I asked. A man stood up slowly in the second row. He wore a plain work jacket with a faded patch on the chest.
Marcus calmly describes the moment his drive home turned violent. The Lamborghini swerved, clipped his car, and sent him into a curb. His words are steady, but his body betrays the memory when he touches his knee without thinking. Meanwhile, Dylan fidgets, detached, as if listening to a story that doesn't concern him.
His hands were rough. His eyes looked tired in a deep way. The way eyes look when life has hit them again and again, and they keep getting back up anyway. He walked up to the microphone with careful steps, like his knee didn't like him much. "State your name for the record," I said gently. "Marcus Hale," he answered. His voice was steady but quiet. "And what do you do, Mr. Hale?" "I'm a nurse's aide at St. Mary's Rehab Unit," he said. "Overnights, and I'm also a veteran, Army, 2 tours, Afghanistan, 2008 to 2012. His posture stayed straight when he said it. Not proud, just honest. I nodded. "Thank you for your service."
Medical consequences follow. A concussion, a damaged knee already weakened by military service, lost workdays, lost income. Marcus explains it without exaggeration, just facts. When Dylan interrupts to minimize the injury, the judge shuts it down immediately. Marcus doesn't argue back. He stands quietly, holding onto his dignity while being dismissed by someone who never learned its value.
He swallowed, then said, "Thank you, Your Honor." I looked at the file again. "Mr. Hale, you're listed here as a witness and reporting party. Tell me what happened." He took a breath. "I was driving home from my shift. It was around 10:47 p.m., like the officer said. I was in a gray Honda Civic. I had my blinker on to turn left. The light was green, then turned yellow, so I slowed down." And
when Marcus explains he's a single father of 2 after losing their mother, the courtroom goes silent. This isn't abstract anymore. 5 missed workdays meant no overtime, no buffer, no safety net. Dylan's quiet laugh cuts through that silence like a blade, drawing the judge's direct attention and hardening the room against him.
then this Lamborghini came up behind me real fast. It swerved around my left side, cut in front, and it clipped my front bumper. I saw Dylan's attorney lean toward Dylan like he wanted him to stop moving. Dylan didn't. Marcus continued, "My car spun a bit. Not all the way, but enough that I hit the curb. My head hit the window. My knee hit the dash." He touched his knee without thinking, like the body remembers pain even when the mind tries to be polite.
Officer Mendez reveals more troubling behavior during the stop. Refusal to hand over a license, claims that his father would make this disappear, and the offer to buy his way out. Dylan doesn't retreat. He doubles down, openly stating that everyone has a price. Even his own lawyer stiffens as the room collectively turns against him.
I asked, "Did you need medical attention?" "Yes, sir," Marcus said. "I went to Rhode Island Hospital. They said concussion symptoms. And my knee, I've had surgery on it before from the Army. This made it worse." Dylan finally spoke louder. "He barely got touched. That's dramatic." I raised my hand. "Mr. Ashford, You will not speak over a witness. He leaned forward, eyebrows up. I'm just saying, people act like they got hit by a train when it's a scratch. Marcus looked down. He didn't argue. He didn't yell. He just stood there holding his dignity with both hands like it was fragile.
The judge challenges that mindset directly, explaining that fines are punishments, not menu items. Dylan waves it off, asking for the price anyway. The judge warns viewers to stay with what comes next, because the evidence about to be shown strips away any remaining doubt about intent, cruelty, and character.
I asked Marcus, "Do you have family?" His eyes lifted. "Yes, sir. 2 kids. My daughter's 9. My son's 6. And are you the primary provider?" He hesitated. "It's just me. Their mom passed 2 years ago. Cancer. I'm doing my best." The courtroom went quiet in the way it does when people feel the truth, when they realize this isn't just a ticket. It's someone's whole week, someone's whole life. Marcus added, "I couldn't work for 5 days because of the concussion. No overtime. And overtime is how I keep the lights on." Dylan let out a small laugh. It wasn't loud, but it was sharp enough that several people turned their heads.
Dashcam footage plays, and it's undeniable. The Lamborghini rockets through traffic, cuts Marcus off, and sends his car into the curb. Then bodycam footage shows Dylan laughing, filming, and mocking the situation. His tone is playful, performative, and cruel. The reality of what happened is no longer debatable. It's documented.
I looked right at him. "Mr. Ashford, are you laughing at this man's injury?" He shrugged again like everything was a joke. "No, Your Honor, I'm just, people are soft." I leaned back in my chair. I've seen arrogance before, but there's a special kind that comes wrapped in luxury, the kind that believes consequences are for other people. Officer Mendez spoke again. "Your Honor, there's more. When I attempted to take Mr. Ashford's license, he refused to hand it over. He stated, 'My dad will make this disappear.' He also told me, quote, 'I'll buy my way out. Just tell me the price.'" That sentence landed in the room like a plate breaking. I looked at Dylan. "Did you say, 'I'll buy my way out'?" Dylan finally looked at me directly. His eyes were bright, almost amused. "I mean, isn't that what fines are? You pay, you leave. That's how it works." I took off my glasses slowly. "No, that is not how it works."
The footage captures Dylan pointing his phone at Marcus, belittling him and mocking his service and his car. It's humiliation layered on harm. The judge pauses the video, confirming it was posted online. The phone was seized, and objections are shut down. The judge makes it clear, this wasn't just reckless driving. It was cruelty with an audience.
And then he did something that told me exactly who he was. He smiled bigger and said, "Come on, Judge, let's not pretend. Everybody has a price." Right then, I could feel the room turn against him. Even his own lawyer's jaw tightened. His father, Victor Ashford, stayed still, but his eyes narrowed just a touch, like he didn't like the mess, even if he was used to cleaning them up. I said, "Mr. Ashford, I want you to listen carefully. A fine is not a price tag on the law. A fine is a punishment meant to correct behavior. It is not a menu." He waved his hand with that Rolex flash. "Okay, whatever. So what's the punishment? Just tell me. I'll write a check today. I've got my card. Now I'm going to tell you something, and I want you to hold on to it. I've had murder cases. I've had assault cases."
More evidence appears. Earlier that night, Dylan was doing donuts in a public gas station lot. He treats it like a joke, saying that's what the car is for. Marcus responds simply that roads aren't. That quiet line lands harder than any argument. Damage costs are read aloud, and Dylan immediately tries to pay his way out again.
I've had families crying so hard they couldn't breathe. But there is something about someone treating justice like a shopping trip that makes the whole country angry. So here's my challenge to you. If you believe nobody should be able to bully the law with money, stay with me through the next few minutes, because the evidence that came out next was so cold and so cruel that even I had to pause before I spoke. I asked Officer Mendez, "Do we have dash camera footage?" "Yes, Your Honor," she said. She held up a drive and handed it to the clerk. The clerk queued it up. The screen in the courtroom lit up. At 10:47 p.m., you could see traffic moving steady. Then, like a green bullet, the Lamborghini shot into frame. It swerved, crossed the solid line, and slid in front of Marcus's Honda. You could hear the tires squeal. You could see the Honda jerk and hit the curb. Someone in the gallery whispered, "Oh my God." Then the next clip played. Officer Mendez's body cam. She approached the driver's side window. Dylan was behind the wheel, one hand on the steering wheel, the other holding his phone up like he was filming a music video. Officer Mendez said, "Sir, please turn the engine off." Dylan said, laughing, "This is insane. You know who my dad is? My dad basically owns this street." Officer Mendez said, "License and registration." Dylan said, "Nah, I'm not digging through my pocket while you're being weird. Just write it up. I'll pay it. I'll buy my way out." He said it like it was cute, like it was clever. Officer Mendez stayed calm. "Sir, step out of the vehicle." Dylan rolled his eyes. "For what? Because you're bored?" That's when the audio caught something else. A second voice. Marcus's voice, faint from behind. He was standing by his damaged Honda, holding his head. He called out, "Ma'am, my kids are in the car seats. No, sorry, they're not with me. I'm dizzy." Officer Mendez glanced back, then turned to Dylan again. "Sir, do you understand you hit another vehicle?" Dylan laughed again. "Hit?" I kissed his bumper. "He's fine." Then Dylan turned his phone and pointed it at Marcus. "Look at this guy, acting like a war hero. Bro, you drive a Civic, relax." Marcus flinched like he got slapped without being touched. I paused the video. I looked at Marcus. "Did he post that video?" Marcus swallowed. "Yes, Your Honor, my cousin saw it." I looked at Officer Mendez. "Was that phone seized?" She nodded. "Yes. Pursuant to the stop and additional probable cause for related offenses, the device was later taken as evidence." Dylan's lawyer stood up quickly. "Your Honor, we would object to any—" I raised my hand. "Counsel, sit. I am viewing evidence that is directly tied to the alleged conduct and to statements made during the stop." Then I turned to Dylan again. "Do you understand what you did? You weren't just reckless on the road, you were cruel after." Dylan leaned forward, voice lower now, like he was bargaining. "Judge, come on. People post stuff. It's not that deep. It's social media." And then Officer Mendez said, "Your Honor, there was also a witness at the gas station across from Terminal Road, a clerk named Sunil Patel. He provided footage from the store cameras. The Lamborghini was seen moments earlier doing donuts in the lot." "Donuts?" I repeated. "Yes," she said, "at 10:43 p.m., tires smoking, other cars nearby." The video came up. There it was, a bright green Lamborghini spinning.
The turning point arrives with social media screenshots. Dylan openly boasts about buying his way out, mocks poor people, and declares the law isn't for him. He confirms posting it, unapologetic. When he insults the judge's background, the courtroom gasps. The judge remains calm but firm, warning that money won't protect him today.
Tight circles like a toy, the headlights cutting through the dark, people in the lot stepping back. I watched Dylan's face. He looked proud again, like he wanted applause. I said, "Mr. Ashford, you were doing stunts in a public lot 4 minutes before you hit this man's car." Dylan shrugged. "It's a Lamborghini, that's what it's for." Marcus spoke softly into the mic. "It's not what roads are for." That line hit hard because it wasn't angry. It was simple. It was a good man asking the world to be reasonable. I asked Marcus, "How much damage was done to your vehicle?" Marcus looked at a paper. "The estimate was $2,146.17. That's for bumper, alignment, and the wheel. My insurance deductible is $1,000. I don't have $1,000 sitting around." Dylan snapped his fingers like he had an idea. "I'll pay it, right now. I'll Venmo him. See? Solved." I leaned forward. "No, not solved." Dylan blinked, annoyed. "Why not?" "He gets money. You get to feel like you did justice. Everybody wins." I could feel my father's voice in my head. My father was a simple man. He worked hard. He taught me that respect is not something you buy. It's something you earn by how you treat people who can't do anything for you. I said, Mr. Ashford, you think justice is a transaction, but justice is a promise. And when people like you treat it like a joke, it breaks faith for everybody watching. Dylan's lawyer tried again. Your Honor, my client is willing to make restitution. He is willing to take a defensive driving course. He has no prior convictions. Officer Mendez cleared her throat. Your Honor, he does have prior contacts, not convictions, but there are 3 prior stops in the last 9 months, 1 for speeding at 92 and a 55, 1 for illegal tint, 1 for exhibition of speed. I looked at the dates. January 6th, May 22nd, August 3rd. 3 warnings, 3 chances. Dylan leaned back and said, So what? You want to punish me because I like cars? Then he turned to Marcus and said, loud enough for the room, Maybe if you worked harder, you wouldn't be driving that trash. Marcus's face tightened. Just for a second, the kind of pain you don't show because you're trying not to fall apart in public. I felt something in my chest harden, and then the twist arrived, not from a witness, not from a lawyer, but from a printed sheet the clerk handed me with a sticky note that said, Social Media Exhibit, Submitted. I looked down. Screenshots, Instagram story, timestamp 11:03 p.m., less than 20 minutes after the stop. The caption read, Cop tried to flex on me, LOL. Told her I'll buy my way out. Guess she didn't know my dad. Broke people problems. Another screenshot. Snapchat, a selfie in the Lamborghini. Smiling, a filter with $signs. Text, court tomorrow, watch me walk. Then the worst one, a short video clip, framed like TikTok. Dylan's face close to the camera. He was laughing. He said, If you're poor and you're watching this, just remember, the law is for you, not for me. I stared at that screen for a long moment. This is the part that went viral, and you're going to want to hear every word of what happened next. But before I tell you, let me tease you with this, that TikTok wasn't even the biggest mistake he made. Not even close. I looked up at Dylan. Did you post these? His lawyer started to speak, but Dylan spoke first. Yeah. And? It's true. The room made a sound, not words, just a low, angry murmur. I said very calmly, Mr. Ashford, you just said in my courtroom that the law is not for you. He tilted his head. I'm just being real. I said, you want real? Real is what happens when your car hits another person's car. Real is what happens when a veteran with 2 kids goes home dizzy and scared because you needed to show off. Dylan rolled his eyes hard. He's milking it. Then Dylan looked right at me and said the insult that told me he still didn't understand where he was. He said, No offense, Judge, but you're from the old world. You probably grew up broke, so you think rules make people equal. That's cute. A few people gasped. One woman in the back said, Wow. I felt my face stay calm because that's my job. But inside I felt the disrespect like a slap across the history of every working person who ever believed in the court system. I said, Mr. Ashford, my father was a working man. I am proud of where I came from. And you are about to learn something today that your money cannot protect you from. Then the bailiff stepped close to the clerk and whispered something. The clerk's eyes widened. She handed me another note, and that note changed the temperature in the room. It read, Federal agent present, wants to be heard, related matter. I looked up. In the back row, a man in a dark suit stood. Not a local cop, not a lawyer. His posture was too still, his eyes too measured. He approached and identified himself. Special Agent Thomas Klein, Homeland Security Investigations, badge 90117. Now, when a federal agent walks into a traffic courtroom, you know this is not about speeding anymore. I said, Agent Klein, why are you here? He said, Your Honor, Mr. Dylan Ashford is currently under investigation in a separate matter. We became aware of today's appearance due to digital evidence recovered from the defendant's phone. There are potential federal charges involving fraudulent vehicle registration, identity misuse, and coordination with a known theft ring operating through the port. The room went dead quiet. Dylan's smile vanished so fast it was almost like watching a mask fall off a face. His lawyer stood up, voice shaking just a bit now. Your Honor, I have no notice of, Agent Klein continued. Your Honor, the Lamborghini in question is registered under a shell company. Payments were structured in a way consistent with laundering. Additionally, there are videos and messages indicating the defendant used his social media accounts to signal arrivals and departures of high-value shipments. I looked at Dylan. Is that true? Dylan's mouth opened, but no sound came out at first. Then he said, That's not what it is. That's a joke. It's content. Agent Klein said, We have messages time-stamped 2:23 a.m. October 12th, where the defendant sent coordinates and the words green light to an individual already indicted in federal court. Dylan's father stood up then. Victor Ashford's face was tight, pale around the mouth. Your Honor, Victor said, may I speak? I looked at him. Mr. Ashford Sr., you may. Victor swallowed. His voice was controlled, but I could hear anger under it. Not anger at me, anger at his son. I came here today thinking this was a traffic matter, Victor said. I have paid for lawyers. I have paid for schools. I have tried to give my son every advantage, but I will not buy his way out of criminal behavior. Dylan snapped his head toward his father. Dad, Victor cut him off. No, don't you dad me. You embarrassed yourself. You embarrassed this family, and you insulted this court. Dylan's face flushed. You're going to let them do this? After everything we donate, after all the stuff you built, you're going to let some nurse's aide play victim and ruin my life? Marcus winced at the words, some nurse's aide, like it was a knife. I said, Mr. Hale is not some anything. He is a person. He is a veteran. He works nights caring for people who can't care for themselves. He is exactly the kind of person the law is meant to protect. Dylan shook his head fast, like he was spiraling. This is ridiculous. I can pay. I can pay his damages. I can pay the court. I can pay whatever program you want. Just let me walk. He leaned forward and said it again, louder, like saying it louder would make it truer. I'll buy my way out. I stared at him and I spoke slowly so every person in that room could hear it. You can buy a Lamborghini. You can buy a watch. You can buy a lawyer. But you cannot buy your way out of my courtroom. And then I did what I rarely do. I turned my attention away from him and toward Marcus. Mr. Hale, I said, I want you to look at me. Not him. Me. Marcus looked up. I said, I'm sorry this happened to you. I'm sorry you were treated like you didn't matter. In my courtroom, you matter. His eyes watered, but he stayed strong. Thank you, Your Honor. I took a breath. The law gave me discretion here, and I intended to use it with purpose. I addressed Dylan. Mr. Ashford, based on the evidence, including reckless driving, failure to obey a traffic control device, exhibition of speed, and your conduct toward law enforcement and the public, I am imposing the following. His lawyer began, Your Honor. I raised my hand. Counsel, you had your chance. Now listen. I said, First, your license is suspended for 12 months, not a hardship license. Full suspension. Dylan's eyes widened. What? I can't. I kept going. Second, you will pay restitution to Mr. Hale.
A federal agent steps forward, revealing an ongoing investigation involving fraud, shell companies, and theft rings. Dylan's confidence collapses. Even his father refuses to shield him. The judge delivers a sentence that money can't erase. License suspension, restitution, maximum fines, and 500 hours of overnight community service alongside the man he mocked. Dylan explodes, but the message is final. Justice isn't for sale. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you in the next video.